Well, I'm David Marcus Reed from Boxing Knowledge, and I'm a boxing historian and a writer. And I've been covering the sport for over 10 years now.
Okay. All right. So what got you into boxing?
Well, I was a lifelong boxing fan. It started when I was a kid. So I've been watching boxing
Okay.
like Sugar Ray Leonard days. So that was the first person that really get gravitated me to the sport, Sugar Ray Leonard.
Okay. So did you get him? At what point did you find Sugar Ray Leonard? Was it the Olympics, or was it when he was beating Duran, or was it Hagler, or further
I had all of
past
that.
that?
I was born in '80, so by the time he fight Tommy
Okay.
Hearns,
Oh, Tommy Hearns. Okay.
to
All
be
right.
exact, that was the first thing I ever seen on TV.
Okay. All right. Well, if that's where you're going to start, that's not bad.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the first fight I ever seen with Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard, and I was a little kid like when I
Okay.
went. And ever since then, I've been hooked on the sport.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you this question. I ask everybody the same question. I have my feelings. I've kind of changed on it some. Who won, Leonard or Hagler?
Sugar Ray Leonard. It was 115, 113.
Okay. In your mind, not what the scores were, in your mind. Was it that close, or was it, did he beat him better than that?
No, Sugar Ray Leonard won the first 6 rounds, and then Hagler came on, and it made it a tight fight. And by the end, it was a 2 point fight.
Okay. That's your score?
Yeah, 115, 113. Sugar
Okay.
Ray.
Cool. All right. Cool. So what made you go that way? What did Sugar Ray do that dominated, or this at least ended up being in the fight that close?
First, Hagler gave away so many early rounds anyway because he was taking Sugar Ray Leonard lightly. So he
Okay.
didn't come on into the middle of the fight anyway. So Ray had already banked a lot of rounds anyway. So it was really like Ray's fight the whole fight. And then, Hagler needed a knockout to win. And he didn't get it.
And he couldn't
So
get close enough. Yeah.
no. So he Marvin Hagler lost that fight himself because he was shucking and jiving too much early in the fight. He gave Ray all them early rounds. He didn't get
Okay.
serious until like around round 7 and 8. It's kind of like the same thing that happened with Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez. It was the same fight. Lomachenko came in there and he wasn't serious for the early rounds, and he let the other kid win all the other rounds. And then by the time we got into round 8 and 9, he started the fight. It was the
By,
same thing.
by
Sometimes
then it's too late.
when you think you're gonna beat a dude easy and you think it ain't gonna be no problem, you give away a lot of early rounds because you playing around. And he's serious. And it's a round by round thing. And if you bank a lot of early rounds, it's your fight to lose. And Sugar Ray Leonard banked a lot of early rounds, and Teofimo Lopez banked a lot of early rounds. So when a guy banked 7, 8 rounds in a row, you coming up where you gonna need a knockout. He already didn't won the fight. You lost too many early rounds. So you putting the pressure on yourself. So Marvin Hagler really did that to himself. So he only got the only person you can blame is himself.
Okay. Now, can you think of any fighters that have actually worked that kind of that philosophy and have actually been successful at it? Because I can think of two.
Well, James Toney with the Michael Nunn fight when he caught him with the equalizer, that's one. And then there's several fights where guys that kind of came on at the end. You know what I'm saying? See another fight that I really love that guy came on at the end.
See, while you're thinking about that, I think that's what
What?
that's what Bernard Hopkins would do.
Oh
He's
yeah,
like, I'm not worried about the first few rounds. I know I got you at the end. I'm going to figure out what you do. Then I'm going to close the door on you.
yeah. He was pretty good at that. So it's been several guys that can kind of do that. But normally, I want a guy to be fight 3 minutes every round. That's how I train and teach boxing. I want you to be into the fight from round one from the start. Don't.
So you don't want to leave it in the judge's hands
Yeah,
or in
exactly.
the referee's hands. You want to take control of yourself, right?
Exactly. You gotta fight with a
Okay.
sense of urgency. It's part of boxing. You gotta fight with a sense of urgency. Every round is
Okay.
important,
So
even the early ones. Because that set the tone, that set the tempo, that set the fight. You can get into a pace of your own loss. So you just gotta
right,
make sure
right.
you get you gotta make sure you keep the energy.
And you never know what happens. That one lucky flash knockdown, whatever. If you've given up 3 rounds and then he gets a lucky punch, and now you've given up 5 rounds and you still right. I understand what you're saying. Okay, cool. All right, now looking at what we've got coming up, and I know you say historian, but we can put everything in historical context. All right, so what do you like coming up this weekend?
Well, like I said, all the brothers, we all getting ready for Adrian Broner fight. So that's gonna be big. You know what I'm saying? We Broner coming back, he entertained. And then we got the ESPN fight tonight, you know what I'm saying, with Burchell and Valdez. So that's gonna be pretty good. So we'll see how it turn out, But but them basically the two best fights that I got.
Okay.
We got I'm also interested into the Otto Wilder versus Dominic Brazil. That fight,
Brazil back, right?
and it's to show people that ESPN and PBC can work together. If they can do that fight, they can do other fights. So people
Right.
always talking about that across the street stuff. Across the street don't really matter to promoters. It's only when they want it to matter.
Okay. Also, you got Robert Easter Jr. coming back as well.
Martin. And Buddy gonna
Yeah.
be looking at a big fight if he wins. Buddy gonna make you get David Haney or somebody like that next. So he got to make sure he wins and look good.
Okay, let's start with Broner. And you say you're looking forward to that fight. Why are you looking forward to this particular fight with this particular guy?
Well, I mean, he is entertaining and he put on a show. He's not boring. So he come out and he put on a show. Sometimes he might not fight all the way and do his best and let his hands go and do some of the things he needs to do inside the ring, but he always makes sure it's an exciting night, whether he win, lose, or draw. So that's what's good about Braun. Even if he don't win, he always be in a good entertaining event.
Okay.
So
all right. So
that's what you need to be. You want to be entertained. You want to be able to show. And it's a bonus if you could be like Mayweather and win all your fights. But at least you want to make people excited about you fighting.
And in my opinion, he hasn't been doing that in the last few fights. So I'm looking forward to him coming out and doing something spectacular.
About Broner that we got to give him credit for. He have a tough schedule. Look at his resume. He done fought the best guys. He might not have lost, and he kind of was way out of division because to me, he moved from lightweight too fast. He should have been at 135 pounds way longer. He went straight from 35 to 40 to 47. So that was a mistake. You can't eat your way out of weight classes. You have to clean your way out of weight classes. So Broner he had to learn that.
The way you put that, right?
So that's what happened with him. He ate his way out of 35, and so then it wasn't time for him to be at 35. See, he was still supposed to be at 35 for like a couple years and really rock it. Then he would have had way more momentum to going into 40 and to 47. You have to make sure you clean out a weight class first. For example, Terrence Crawford did it properly. Before you leave a weight class, you got to thoroughly beat that weight class, and then you can move up.
So when we see Broner at his best, what does he bring to the table?
I mean, he's a good mover, and he flashy. He know how to hit and not get hit. That's his style of boxing. He's good at that, but he got to make sure he do more hitting now coming up.
See, we had on the other show, we made a comparison to him because he throws some awkward angles in different ways, and he's also pretty quick. We compared him to Aaron Pryor. Does that seem like a valid comparison to you?
But see, one thing about Aaron Pryor was not scared to be in a firefight. He was not scared to trade and not scared to hit and be in the thick of it. Sometimes Broner get a little gunshot and he don't want to exchange, and that be his losses right there because he's scared to exchange. And Aaron Pryor, that was the total opposite of him. Aaron Pryor will fight a gorilla.
Sure. But see, I think Broner was like that when he came out. Broner would stick his face in there and go with anybody when he first came out.
It's funny when you get to be the little dude and then you going up with guys with way more natural power.
That's true.
He was the big guy when he was at lightweight. See, now when you're at welterweight, you're the little guy. See what I'm saying? And if he would have stayed at 135 pounds, he would have been the bigger guy in the division. But now he moved to 47. He the little guy to everybody.
Right. So you have to duck and dodge a little bit more. Yeah.
Exactly. Now,
see, that kind of sounds like a little Pernell Whitaker there. It's like, you're not going to hit me, but I'm not going to hit you much, but I'm still going to fight. And again, you're talking about somebody who would give away a round or two just because they could.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. They're kind of tied together there. All right. So the rest of that card. Okay. You got Otto Whalen and Dominic Brazil. What do you think of that
one? Whalen, I want to see how he reacts to Brazil's big punch because I know Brazil is a huge puncher. So that's what I want to see. The guy with the biggest punches to me is going to win that fight. So I think coming in, I like Brazil's punching power coming in. That's what I'm looking at.
Now, now is this a fight that gets you to the next level? Not that they're that far off that level
Really
anyway. I
a
know Brazil's
comeback
just
fight.
about
It's a
there.
gauge, it's a comeback fight and it's a gauge fight for both guys because
Right.
they both it's the battle of losers because Otto Wilder lost to Tyson Fury and Dominic Brazil
Right.
lost to Wilder. So we putting the two
Right.
losers against each other to see who come out. So that's another thing you gotta be interested about this fight.
Yeah. And I think they're both at the point where they have to do something, because if they don't, they don't get another shot like this. So
Exactly.
this is maybe last call for both of them. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
And then Robert Easter Jr. coming back. Now, I was out here in Vegas the last fight he had, and the Robert Easter Jr. fans were like, "This is the next guy." Before the fight, they were all excited and everything, and then he didn't show up. So, what Robert Easter Jr. do you think we're going to get tonight?
Well, Bunny should be totally motivated because he got a lot of money on the line. He got big
Right.
fights in store for him. So, and it's once you get piled up on love, he really right there at that point to where he really want to get into the mix back to what the Teofimo Lopez is and the Ryan Garcias and all that. He's still young as all of them dudes, and he's still in the same division. So he got the size. Bunny remind me a lot of Tommy Hearns. Bunny got a lot of Tommy Hearns in it. Bunny got to just
Yep.
make sure
Yep.
he uses his advantages, and Bunny got to make sure he just really be ready to unload that big right hand and really throw that power like he can and really can start dispatching some guys because Bunny could be getting a lot more knockouts if he really, really sat down on his punches and really started to really turn and really just let his hand go and just really just let unload with that power because he got that angle to give you the torque because he's so tall. So he needs to use that height and really
Right.
come down on these guys with that punch. So I'm looking for him to really start to settle in on himself and sit down on his feet and not be scared of the fire and really let his hands go and let his punching power show. So
Well, I had the chance to. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying I'm expecting for him to really show that he can knock some people out coming up in the next couple of years and do what he can. That's what I'm looking for him to do because he got a lot of ability. For example,
Right.
to me, Bunny better than Ryan Garcia. To me, but Ryan Garcia getting all of the hype. You see what I'm saying? If we put him in the gym every day, Bunny will be beating Ryan Garcia's ass. So
Well, it's funny because I had a chance to talk to his people before the fight. Then I had the chance to talk to his dad, the trainer, after the fight the next day, and it was just a brief conversation, but it was more confusion than anything else because it's like I don't know what happened. I mean, he couldn't put his finger. It's like I don't. I mean, he knew what get him going this time.
yeah, I mean that happens sometimes. They gotta just make sure they he learned from it and he get hungry. He make sure he focus in before his training camp. He was thinking it was gonna be sweet.
Right.
He thought he was gonna win everything easy. And you gotta sometimes have a little adversity to make a champion. It happened to the best of them, Muhammad Ali and all of them lost. So if Ali can catch a loss, I mean any of these guys can maybe catch one of me. I don't really hold like one loss or stuff against it a
Yeah.
guy's career. You know what I'm saying? Especially when they so young. See what I'm saying? And you fought somebody that's
Well,
quality. So that's the one thing about boxing with me. If you lose and you lose to somebody we got as a high ranking world champion and stuff, there's no shame in that. That's not the worst thing in the world. You can come back from that. You can rebuild the career, especially when you are young. You're still in your 20s. You got years to go. You got a lot of time.
Well, let's take a look at that because I think there are a lot of people that think that you got to go undefeated and retire and tie Rocky Marciano's record. And hey, 2, 3 losses, 4 losses, 5 losses ain't a
For
big
example, you
deal.
brought up Hopkins. Hopkins lost his first fight. Hopkins lost his first
Yeah.
fight. The first fight he ever had, he lost. So it's like that's not true. That's not true. Fight fan.
Well,
For
it's
example, I'll give you another example. Sean Porter. Sean Porter didn't been in a lot of tough fights, but he mostly didn't lost all of them. But we all love him and we all respect him because we know he put in a good fight and he gonna be there and he tough and he gonna challenge the guy and he's not scared of the competition. He's a good kid. he's respectful, to his family and all of us and everything, the way he act and the way he conduct himself. So we love him for all of that. So you don't have to win every fight to be a love fighter. Sean Porter gonna go into the Hall of Fame when his career is over, and he ain't gonna beat none of them guys. Most every fight that Sean be in, Sean loses. He beat Broner, but that's about it. All the other ones he lost. You see what I'm saying? So,
oh no, exactly.
But let's say Sean Porter is a scrub, or he suck, or he this, or he that. We can't be talking about him because the man he give us a good fight all the time, and he know how to conduct himself as a gentleman.
I'll give you another one, and go back a little ways. Glenn Coffee Johnson.
Exactly.
And a guy that always got, if you want to say it, got jobbed on a few calls here and there, but he always showed up. And when he dropped down 2 weight classes and looked like he hadn't eaten in like 9 months, he still brought it when he was 38, 39 years old. He still brought it. You were going to get a fight when you saw Glenn Coffee Johnson step in the ring.
Exactly, because he fought with a sense of urgency. And like he did, like I said earlier, he fight 3 minutes of every round. It's very important to fight every round that whole 3 minutes. That's very key, because you can break a fight down within 15 to 30 to a minute of each round on judges. Like, it's a way that you can score a fight, because I did a lot of scoring a fight before. You can score a fight within 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, and then you can go to that minute and a half. You go by the 30, per clip of like who winning the action. So that's why it's very important to be urgent on all, because sometimes a round can come down to 15 seconds. It can be that close to where you gotta make a choice on who won within 15 seconds of a fight. That's how they had fights where they had to break it down. It's close.
It's almost like you score the round like you're scoring the entire fight. So it's not 3 minutes; it's a portion of each round.
Exactly.
Who wins each section?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
That's how you properly score a fight.
Well, we had the chance to talk to Max DeLuca, who does a lot of big fights. Scores a lot of big fights, and basically, and unfortunately, I lost some of the footage for that. He piped in on one of the fights that he actually scored a while ago, and he mentioned that you don't pay attention to who it is in the ring beforehand. You don't say, well, this guy's starts slow, this guy's a power puncher. You try and block all that out and score what's in front of you. He kind of reiterated the same thing that you said, that you look at it section by section, and then once that round's over, you don't think about that round scoring the next round.
It's over. It's all starts again. So you can go out and you can look great for the first 30 seconds, and then you can give up the rest of the round. See what I'm saying? Like, and still lose the round. So people got to be, you have to score a fight within that 3 minutes. So you got to make sure you break each minute down into the sections.
But we broke down the review of the first Pacquiao Marquez fight, and just to give you a little backstory, I wasn't watching it to start with, and after the first knockdown, my buddy called me and said, "You got to watch this fight. This Pacquiao guy is just insane." So I turned it on, and by the time I got it on, it was already 3 knockdowns in the first round for Marquez. Exactly. So I said, why am I watching the rest of this fight? It's over. If I'm looking at it, that's a 10-6 round, right? Exactly. He can't possibly win this fight. Mm-hmm. And he won the rest of the rounds, and he got a draw. I'm like, I started to look at the way they score things a little different. Right.
That's what it should have been. It should have been a draw.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
It should have been, right. And you would but when you're watching, you're going, and when you think about it, it's going like, this can't happen. All Pacquiao has to do is win one round. What does Marquez think he's doing? Why didn't he just walk out the door? No, he understood. He had to keep on going and going, and that's what you talk about. You gotta fight every minute of every round.
I'm gonna give you another one like that too. Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis.
Sure.
That fight with them, Mike Tyson won that first round. If you would look at that first round, you would think he was about to handle Lennox easy. And then Lennox came on and just won all the rest of the rounds and just totally dominated Tyson. But if you go by that, if you show the first round, if you just use the clip from the first round and show it to a person, they gonna think Tyson is winning the fight. He won the first round.
Or you can flip it around, Greg Page and Mike Weaver.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's
the other way around.
That's a good one. When the guy come on at the end.
You just gotta keep on going. Don't let the dude did you forget that I'm Mike Weaver? I guess you did.
Exactly. I love that fight too.
Oh. Fight's over. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So now, speaking of people getting knocked out, we're gonna flip it to what just happened. What in your mind? What the hell happened to Josh Warrington?
Well, the Mexican kid beat him at his own game, really, and then Josh didn't make no adjustments, and it's really a case of being able to have one way of fighting, and then you show up with a bad night and not be able to make no, like people always talk about Mayweather adjustments, being able to not be able to do the same thing if it's not working. Josh Warrington kept doing the same things and it wasn't working.
Isn't working, right?
So when that happens in boxing, you have to make an adjustment. You have to do something else. You got to change game plans within the fight. Sometimes you might come in with you think you're gonna fight a certain way, and that ain't gonna cut it that night. You got to do something else. And the kid never tried to do anything else. And the Mexican kid showed up with way more punching power on the night with the same game plan. So he beat Warrington at his own game plan with way more punching power. Where people would think Warrington would come in with the punching power every time they got hit. The Mexican kid didn't show no really reaction. Warrington was the only one wobbling and moving around from the punches. So he got beat at his own game. So really, Josh Warrington need to go back and learn how to fight 2 or 3, 4 ways to be able to make some adjustments in the ring. That's how you have to do it.
But this is the problem when you're undefeated and you've been dispatching everybody that you fight. Why do I have to change?
So another thing too, the kid is pretty quality and he overlooked them. He was thinking about Shakur and thinking about other people coming up. So he wasn't really thinking it was going to be an easy night. But Eddie Hearn found a way of giving guys a tough guy, but not a big name. He pretty good. Eddie Hearn is pretty good at finding a guy who gonna give you a fight, but he ain't really like this somebody that we all be talking about every week. And you know what I'm saying? So he knew the guy was quality. So Warrington should have just been leery of that. And another thing about him too, it really showed me that I was kind of right because I was always saying that he wasn't number one in the division anyway. So if he can get beat by this guy, Shakur and all the other kids gonna destroy him. He had no chance. He has no chance against Shakur Stevens. It shouldn't even be a thought in his mind to even fight him now if he get beat by this Mexican kid because he's going to get totally dispatched.
Okay, now this is something we've talked about and going to the past, but do you have to come to America or fight the Americans to prove that you are what you are? Because we were talking about Calzaghe, we were talking about Beterbiev, we were talking about Marco Huck.
I don't care what region.
Which goes.
You got once you get to big time boxing, you got to come to America and you got to be you got to try to make yourself a household name within America. For example, you brought up Pacquiao as a prime example. Pacquiao could have been trying to have his fights everywhere, but he knew he had to come to America and to be, and that's why people who don't really watch boxing know his name now. You have to conquer this land if you want to be a world global star.
Michael Kessler losing to Andre Ward.
Yeah.
All those guys, right. Yeah.
Come to America. So that's very
important. Is it because it's the prestige? It's because it's the atmosphere, or is it because this is where the better guys are?
We got the best global press in America. So if you really, whether you a rapper or you a singer or something like that, or Beyonce or somebody like that, nobody can get nobody famous like American press. So if you want to really be like a global star, because every quiet is kept, all the other countries, whether it's Africa or France and all of them, they pay attention to our pop culture. They pay attention to our songs. They pay attention to our sports. They know LeBron. They know Michael Jordan. They know all of this stuff. So if you really want to be a really global icon, you got to do your thing in America, whether you're a baseball player or a basketball player or a boxer or you sing or you're a rapper or whatever. You have to come to America and you have to make sure if you want to be a global star, because people in them other countries like American culture. So people in Africa wear Yankees hats and they got Googles. You can go into Africa right now and talk to the kids and say, you ever heard of Michael Jordan? And they say, yeah, they're going to say, yeah. You know what I'm saying? You can go to Spain and all these places and you can ask them, do you know about Kobe Bryant? They're going to say, yeah, and all this stuff like that. You can go to, Guatemala and some of these other places and stuff like that and ask them, have you heard about, certain entertainers and stuff that we had? And they're going to say, yeah. So that's one thing about America. If you really want to be a global star, you have to, because for example, I was giving you an example. I was watching this documentary and they had some kids in, I think, Brazil, and all they was wearing was American jerseys.
Right.
All of them
Right.
had on, that's every one of them had on a Laker jersey or a Knicks jersey or something like that. Each one of them had on a American team jersey, not their own
Yeah.
country,
Yeah.
but an
Right.
American team.
And that's it. Right. And how many people you see walking around with a Ronaldo jersey on? Not as
Exactly,
many. Right.
exactly.
Right. Good point. Good point. Now we're looking at tonight. We're looking at Burchell and Valdez.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of two people not from America, from Mexico, but we have the Marco Antonio Barreras and Eric Morales and those guys. Is this the next wave of those guys that are come over here and going to say,
It's
okay,
all Shakur Stevenson's division. This is his division, and he gonna
okay,
rock it. So I'm looking forward to him being the next super fight with Devin Haney. So I know Shakur is gonna rock it with these dudes, and that's the guy. We we ride with Shakur Stevens. So Burchell and all them, both of them is B, C, D, whatever you want to rank them. Shakur is A. Shakur is A. So he gonna be the guy. So really, this is gonna be the battle of who gonna get Shakur Stevens.
this is the junior varsity game.
Exactly.
Okay.
Shakur is the main event. He the all-star.
So there's any even point watching it, or is it
No,
going to
it's
be a
gonna,
decent
no,
fight?
it's gonna be competition for them. But I'm talking about as far as the low global landscape of that division, it's gonna all be centered around Shakur. Shakur Stevenson is the guy. So we all rocking with Shakur.
Okay.
Shakur
Okay.
Stevenson and Devin Haney is my two best prospects. And I don't even know if we can call them prospects. Well, they wasn't gonna be pound. They the two that people ain't got on their pound for pounds yet that I know on mine that's gonna be on it in the future. Devin Haney and Shakur. So that's why we gotta have it. Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney is gonna throw us back to some Pernell Whitaker, Sugar Ray Leonard and them type action. Them two. So that's why them two has gotta be front and center all the time. Because they go remind us of all of the great fighters we've seen in the past. Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney is the two best fighters in boxing that people ain't really overly broadcasting. They still got them in the pack, but really they gonna dominate and totally dispatch their pack. And ain't gonna be nobody left but them two.
Okay. Now let's flip the page a little bit here. We talked about being a historian and writing. What got you into writing about boxing?
Well, it's just been that I was always able to express the sport, whether talking it or being able to write it. So I was writing the stuff in high school and stuff like that. Like I write, like different things on different writers. Different boxes and stuff like that. And then another thing was Mr. Sugar. I wanted to be a lot like Bert Sugar, so Bert wrote, so I always wrote too. So when Mr. Sugar, I kind of like patted myself as a young black Bert Sugar. That's how I look at myself. I always had such an affinity for Mr. Sugar when I was a little kid. So he wrote a book, I want to write a book. You know what I'm saying? He wrote articles, I wanted to write articles. So I kind of wanted to keep myself on a parallel to where I could do, just in my own mind, where I could know I could do that. So that's really what it was.
All right, what's the maybe not the best thing that anyone else has written or read, but what's the best thing that you think you did, or the one you had the most fun with, most piece?
Well, the book that I wrote, Boxing Knowledge, was work. Even myself, I found myself even finding over and over again different nuggets of information that I could. It's stock filled with so many facts that I can reread it and learn myself all the time. So that's one thing about the book. It's filled with so much detailed knowledge about the sport. So I went back so far into history, because I started the book with prehistory, and then I took it all the way up to pay-per-view. So within that, that's a lot of information. That's a lot of years. That's that's like thousands of years. You know what I'm saying? So it's tons of information in it. So the fun facts of it. That's what I really love about the book. It's got a lot of fun facts.
What did you find out that you found really interesting that you didn't have a clue about before you researched it?
Not that I didn't have a clue about it, but my favorite chapter is the color line and Peter Jackson and John L. Sullivan and that whole saga about how he would never fight a black man and
right.
how people at the time let him get away with that. And, of the whole saga about how they ruined Peter Jackson, and they kind of, they didn't really, it wasn't fair to, you know what I'm saying? And then everybody went along with it. That's what I find so heartbreaking, that it wasn't just Sullivan that did that. It was all of the other people around who went. But Peter Jackson was famous. Like we were talking about Global Star. Peter Jackson was famous in Russia. He was famous in France. He was famous in all these other countries, and he still couldn't get a chance. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like how Canelo kind of doing too with some of the stuff with his belt.
Right.
He's not giving certain guys just a chance just because he's scared of. You know what I'm saying? In a certain way, you know what I'm saying? And whatever he's doing, he's not giving all of the right people the right chance to get your title. So that's my favorite chapter, the color line of my book. You know what I'm saying? Because Peter Jackson is the most unsung person in boxing. I don't think we should even really rate John. To me, in my opinion, I don't think John L. Sullivan should be rated as a great fighter and in the pantheon. He should be known as somebody that competed in the sport. We should take him off the books as being like somebody that we should glorify. Because he didn't want to fight the best competition. He refused to fight color people. And if you don't want to fight a color person, you ain't fight the best people. You can't look every man in the house then. You're not that bad. You ain't as tough as you think you is. So I don't like John L. Sullivan. John L. Sullivan, to me, represents everything about civil rights and the Ku Klux Klan and everything that we had to go through throughout all these years of like discrimination and all that. He represents that within boxing. So John L. Sullivan, to me, should be totally took off the map. Anybody that got him rated anywhere within their historic list is, kind of racist because he don't deserve it. He should be totally kind of barred from history to me. He was a despicable man.
Okay,
I don't like John L. Sullivan. That's my least favorite boxer in boxing history. That everybody got is a great boxer, John L. Sullivan. And he was the first, but to me, he's the last.
Now, unfortunately, I haven't read the book.
We kind of broke up, sir.
That's right. Go ahead.
Now I didn't hear what you said.
Well, as we're progressing through, and you get to the Floyd Pattersons, people that are in the Olympics, and you talk about Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm trying to tie this up as well as I can. Did you see a pattern of guys going through the Olympics? Because before Floyd Patterson, you really didn't have to be in the Olympics to be able to be considered,
The Olympics set your career.
Your amateur career, and then you went pro.
If you can really rock, the better you can have your amateur, the better you set up your financial and all that for your profession. So it's very, especially if guys want to make big money, it's very important that you carve out a name for yourself before you turn pro. You want us to know you, or you want us to anticipate you coming into the sport as a professional. So that's why it's very important to carve out a great amateur career. So I'm real big on guys being going to the Olympics, and any pedigree you can get, as much of that you can get, I think it's value. It's worth its weight in gold. You get experience, you get to see different styles, you get to match up with different body types, plus you get to set up your financial. If you have a great Olympic, that's you automatically throwing on hundreds of thousands of dollars coming into the sport. That's what they fight for. They fight for the money. So it's better to be a better amateur as good as in boxing than it is in any sport, because you're setting up the money already.
Now you mentioned gold. Now, do the Golden Gloves mean as much as they used to, you think?
I mean, it's still things to where you can get exposure and where you build up a following, you build up a name, you build up a reputation, you build up people anticipating you fight in a certain kind of way. So it's always very important to win at every amateur level. So Golden Gloves, yes, it's still important. All of those levels is very important. They're very important, especially if you go to professional boxing. For example, all of the great dudes from New York the Hector Camachos and Zeb Judas, all them. They set themselves up with the golden gloves. That's how they came. That's when they was turning out. That's when we first started seeing. That's when I first seen Zeb Judah. See what I'm saying? I ain't see Zeb Judah when he was a pro. I seen him when he was an amateur. So by the time he was gonna be pro, I'm know about Zeb Judah. See what I'm saying? So that's the way I look at it. Andre Ward, all them guys. I seen all them kids before they was professional. You know what I'm saying? So that's very important to have a person like me. Like for example, we got the Keyshawn Davises and all them now. I know them now. I'm watching them. I'm getting ready for them now. When they gonna turn pro, I'm gonna know. I'm already gonna be hip to them. See what I'm saying? So that's one thing about it. You give people like me a chance to already do their homework.
And see, the problem that I think we have is that the way the media covers it, unlike people like yourself, is that we're worried about pay-per-view fights, and we're not covering the undercards. We're not showing, the guy that may be 3-0. We're not showing and it used to be the Golden Gloves used to be on TV. It used to be we actually covered the Olympics and the fighters and the up close and personal, all that. Now it's like, oh yeah, we had Olympic boxing on for 3 seconds now. We don't cover that amateur stuff as much as we used to.
He took a little bit lost. It's been so long since we won gold with a man. Our last gold medalist is Clarissa Shields.
Right.
So that's another thing. We ain't won nothing. And we came close and we've been robbed a couple times and several things that happened, you know what I'm saying? But when we won all that time in 76, I think some of them other nations and stuff did some behind the scenes stuff and said we can't let the Americans win all of the golds in boxing. And ever since 76, ain't nothing went right for us. Even the fights where we was supposed to win, like Roy and Holyfield and all them, they jobbed them because they couldn't let the Americans win all of the medals. So that's one thing that we got to make sure that we leery of, and we come in and they got to do some investigating on the anti-American sentiment of like, okay, we just don't want them to win because we know they got a talented kid. You know what I'm saying? And they make it hard for us. You know what I'm saying? Same thing kind of happened a little bit to Team GB too. They had some guys that we knew was gonna go pro, and they made it sure that they wasn't gonna, win their gold medal. You know what I'm saying? You got to be leery of that.
All right, well, David, I appreciate you joining us. Tell me one thing, and then a couple other things after that. What makes you want to do this?
Well, I'm the past. I'm here to make sure that we keep the memories of all of the great fighters and all that alive. And I want to make sure that we can give a good light on all of the kids that we got coming up in the future. So really the preservation of the sport and to make sure that the sport is always seen in its best light. So I came to boxing to make sure that it was in its best light and that I knew I could help. Because one of the reasons that I really got into boxing was when we had the Bernard Hopkins Winky Wright fight, the ESPN coverage on the fight, I thought it wasn't good enough. So I looked at and I wanted to try to do something and started to get into trying to cover boxing and do what all I could to try to scrap and claw and to try to do anything that I could to make boxing be seen as a legitimate sport like NBA, MLB, NHL, all of that. So whenever they finals and all they big events come along, ESPN, all them cover that, right? So they got to make sure that they treat all our big events the same way. So that was one of the main driving forces of me too. I wanted to build a platform to where we can make sure that we always get our just due as far as like if we got something going on big that it's supposed to be given its proper shine and its proper light, and people supposed to be made aware of it, and people supposed to tune into it, and people supposed to be excited about it. It's not supposed to be something put on the back burner and something that's supposed to be also ran. It's supposed to be something that's supposed to be front center in people's minds. So that's the reasons that I really got into boxing is to try to help propel the media angle of it being a dead sport or, you can't sell it or nobody's interested. Who cares? We care. We do care. That's why we're here. So I wanted to really wave my flag to show I care. If they don't care, I care.
Right. Well, the thing that I thought was funny a couple of weeks ago or a month ago or how long it's been, I'm losing track of time anymore. I'm watching, their Fox puts on their PBC show or whatever it was. And I'm undercard, I'm like, is that James Kirkland?
Yeah.
Wait a second. How did I not know James Kirkland was fighting? How did you not let me know that for the last 3 weeks when you've been saying we've got a fight on and you spend 10 seconds talking about it? How did you not let me know that James Kirkland is coming back? Whether he got beat or not, which he got beat badly, that's irrelevant. It's like, wait a second. This guy was one of the guys we were pointing to until his world kind of fell apart.
Remember how Max
and that's a story.
Remember, I'll never forget how Max Kellerman talked about James Kirkland. Like James Kirkland was about to just revolutionize boxing.
Right.
He was going to change the sport. See what I'm saying? So that's one thing that I always find funny. Whenever I think about Kirkland, I always think about how Max Kellerman introduced him to the public and kind of how he, I don't know if he, well, they kind of say they did the same thing to Ronda Rousey. Well, you can overhype a person and they can't go to them expectations. You can kind of make them have to do some Herculean stuff just to live up to what you were saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, he made him seem like he was John Henry and everybody rolled into one, Muhammad Ali and, Mike Tyson, everything rolled into one. So,
but the story is he went away for legitimate reasons. I mean, some stuff happened in his life, and now he's back. He's trying to make a comeback. Whether he's going to succeed in that fight or the subsequent fights after that, he's making an effort, and you made money off of him, and now you can't give him a little love. That destroyed me. It's like I didn't even know it was that. And like there, I mean, the bell rang. I'm like, that's James Kirkland.
Exactly.
What the hell is he doing on? Yeah. Exactly. So I understand that. Now let's look at this from another way. How can people find you?
Well,
Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff.
Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Tumblr. I got my website. Like you said, we can check out the book. Anywhere that social media Boxing Knowledge is on, so they can find me at Boxing Knowledge. So look for at Boxing Knowledge.
Okay, anything at Boxing Knowledge. Okay, where's the book being sold?
Amazon right now.
On Amazon.com. Okay, all right. Well, this was very good. Well, we will do this again. Thank you very much, and we've got some other stuff to discuss. So everybody, enjoy your day.
Thank you, sir.